course, the last part, which is the part that I probably touch on when people ask the question, is really around, are you the employer? Being or working with someone where you're not the employer of record means really what that says. You're not the employer. You have a role in the business, but if the payroll, the human resources, and all the other functions are handled by another company, insurance and all of that, you're not really the employer in the sense that I think most people think that they are. So you are really tasked with the recruiting piece, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think in considering that many people want to strive and desire to own their own business, that option can create a lot of limitations. So do I think they're great back office and EOR types of companies? Of course, like I mentioned early on, they've been around forever, and they definitely have a role in this industry and really every industry. I think my focus with this video is about being more informed about what it is that is really happening in that dynamic and how it can impact you in the future. So just like with anything, I'm a believer in everything is negotiable and it's based on what you negotiate with that particular company. I will say that whether it's this company or any company, don't lock yourself into long-term contracts. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. Typically, it's never that great. And if it's a great experience, then you can just renew in a year. Signing up for any 2-year contracts that lock you in isn't wise. Get clear explanations of what the fees and rates, the payouts, the process, who you talk to when you have issues in writing, so that you don't experience situations where people had to go back and forth with PEO companies. If you don't understand the contract, spend a couple of dollars, whether it be through Rocket Lawyer or Legal Shield, and have a lawyer look over it to highlight or identify areas of the contract that you need to get further explanation of or to eliminate. Think about whether or not you want the full service, or maybe you just need a la carte services, right? So don't get sold, because they're businesses, so they're in the business of selling. Don't get sold solely on the idea of a one-stop shop, and don't take out the time to consider the alternative. So the one-stop shop is what a lot of the PEOs sell on, which I think is great because I love a one-stop shop. But you don't want to get in that situation and then 2-3 months later, or 2 or 3 years later, realize, hey, I'm actually spending enough money in fees to bring someone in-house, and maybe that'll help me streamline the process for my business or for my agency moving forward. So you want to really sit down with the numbers, look at all the fees. Our particular agency probably a couple of years ago explored PEO, so I am familiar with what some of the contracts look like, so I'm not oblivious to that. We did not decide to go in that direction, so I don't recommend. I let people who actually work with them, if they recommend them. But in recommending any businesses, I encourage you guys to look at a couple of different options, look at a couple of different PEO companies, and kind of weigh out the experience for yourself and ask questions. So if someone had said, oh, well, Shamika, you should use this company, talk with them, ask questions, find out more information. Take your time is essentially what I'm saying, whether it's with this or any other business. Really take your time, because whether you're locked into a year contract, which I wouldn't do, but if that's something you decide to do, I would really take out the time to understand what I'm signing up for versus what I'm being sold. So that's the main thing, guys. So can it be done? Of course it can be done. Is it a process? Yes. So does it require a little bit of research, a little bit more research, and a little bit of time? Yes. But the roles for the human resources, credentialing, and compliance can be done. There's a lot of systems out there that already do some pieces of that. So bringing someone into that role is important. Human resources types of generalists and coordinators and things like that typically get a SHRM certification. which means that they're well versed in the different elements of the business. And as an employer, it's important for you to understand why that's important. And then same thing for accounting. There are definitely accounting associations and certifications, but really think about, do you need that particular person in place at that level? So do you need an accountant, or do you need a bookkeeper or a clerk or a assistant or a coordinator? And, kind of grow from there. The last piece is that they offer the benefit initially. That's why I say, think about what you're doing versus what you're being sold on, is that you're still paying money. You may be paying money you may be paying a little bit of money, because some people perceive it as a little bit, over a longer period of time, but you're still paying the money. So is there a way, if you want to use that money to keep it in-house? Are there tools and resources, technology for you to transition it in-house? Does it make sense? Is it feasible? And a big part of all of that to me is based on how your organization is structured. So if you don't take anything out of this, take a couple of things. If you don't have a organizational structure, an organizational chart in your business, that's something that you need to work on. And a big part of that is focused on who does what, where. And it's not so much focused on in real time. Like I gave the example before, me and my partner started, the two of us. So there was no organizational structure with just the two of us. It really looked at where we would want to be in the next 3 to 5 years. So you want to make sure that you have it in place to establish purpose and direction for your organization. It identifies who does what. Who is the business manager? Who is the operations person? Who is the accountant? Who is the CEO? It creates structure for your employees around chain of command within your organization. And I tell people, just put vacant if the job isn't filled, but you still want to have something. And then you always want to open the door for adjustments. So create an organizational structure broad enough that gives you a foundation, but narrow enough that you can fill in some of the blanks around where you might add in people. The example I gave was, for us, one of the roles was a finance manager that reported to the CEO. And under that role, we can have a accounting clerk or a bookkeeper or a accounting assistant or a payroll coordinator. So all of that can fall under that category. The same thing falls for credentialing and recruitment. That was under the business operations manager or business operations. And then, different roles can go under that as well as it's applicable. And having that really matters. And the descriptions of the roles and responsibilities of those jobs are important too. And a lot of that stuff, like I tell you guys, you don't have to rack your head and figure it out. It's online. You can go online, you can go on Indeed. There's a lot of information out there to fill in some of those gaps. You really do want to think about, hey, does this person need to have a degree? Do they need to have a certain specific certification, so that when you do decide to recruit for those roles, you know what you're looking for and you're not wasting time. But it's not something that you need to rack your head about, to kind of say, oh, I need my CPA to be state certified. But do you? Is that something that you would use on a regular basis, or is a bookkeeper beneficial and then you have a CPA that you consult with on a quarterly, monthly, yearly basis? So that's about it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Thanks for joining. I hope that provides some clarification on that process. I'm all about, hey, you want to have access to information. That's what our group was founded for. So I did want to touch on that to make reasonable decisions. Is PEOs and ERRs an option? Of course. I'm not knocking that. Is it the best option? I don't know. Do your research, talk to a couple of people, ask a lot of questions, make the decision that makes sense. Is it a money saver? I'm not sure that that's the case either. You are paying money for it because it's a service. So any service that you do, you're going to always pay money for it. And it's really up to you to determine over time if it's a savings. Is it an option versus bringing someone in-house? Of course. it's an option, but make sure that you're not signing any long-term contracts. That's with anything, guys. Like, I'm not into that. You understand what you're signing up for. You understand, your contracts that you're signing and the role that you'll play within that business relationship. And then, make the decision that you feel best with it and go with it. So as long as you have the information and tools and resources that you need, I think it's fair. But I think for some people, they have a misconception about what it is and what they actually provide, versus, doing it in-house. So whether it's human resources, payroll, all that stuff can be done in-house. It's been done in-house for years. Can you outsource it? You definitely can outsource it. Is it the right decision to outsource it? It depends. So figure it out. Create your organizational structure regardless. Ask questions, and definitely access the group for more information, as that question has come up probably the last month. I think it's come up 3 times. So I just wanted to give my take on it. And as always, thanks for being a part of the community. I hope that helps someone to get a better clarification on it and what that might look like. I will share the organizational chart that I mentioned and a couple of the slides that I mentioned probably tomorrow and next couple of days. I have to edit it a little bit so that you guys can visually see what I was referring to. So as always, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy your holiday, and I will be chatting with you.